My name is Audrey Taylor. I'm an assistant professor in geography and environmental studies, and my connection with the program is that I started it in 2013 with Audubon, Alaska, and we have been running it now this will be our 5th year coming up. It was sort of a brainchild of both of ours, and we mutually know a third person who's been doing informal boreal bird surveys in Anchorage for a long time. She didn't have time to continue those surveys, and so she talked to Nils and myself about taking on those surveys. Those were just for lesser yellowlegs, which is a single species of concern, and then we decided to expand it and make it cover 7 species of boreal birds. And I thought it would be a neat citizen science project, and Audubon thought, well, there's lots of Audubon volunteers here in Anchorage, so you can make a little marriage of citizen science and volunteer. Part of it is probably changing climate and changing landscape, wetland and wetness parameters. So a lot of the small wetland bogs that these species depend on, when you get a warmer climate, there's more evaporation, those wetlands shrink. Additionally, in Anchorage, we have this really neat situation where we've got the base that has a lot of intact boreal habitat that's being affected by climate change, but not as much residential development. Anchorage, we have a lot more residential, commercial development, same climate change issues, and so we can compare those two landscapes and look at distribution of birds and hopefully be able to say what are the things that are really most affecting those species. We suspect that the kind of residential development, commercial development, roads, traffic, human pedestrians, all of that stuff in the landscape context of a city is going to look very different for a bird and be less attractive than someplace up on Jaybear.
30 to 40 volunteers come together in the spring for training. This consists of an overview of the program, how to identify the 12 target species of birds, and how to enter the data into eBirds, the data collection service the program uses.
We try to get people who are interested in birds, so they're at least experienced with the idea of going out and looking at birds and recording the data, because a lot of people enter their observations into things like eBird, which is an online bird observation database. So that helps by using volunteers that are kind of used to that as a form of recreation. And then this summer we're going to have dual surveys done by citizen scientists and then Fish and Wildlife Service trained ornithologists, and so they'll be doing surveys on the same wetlands and sort of verifying what the citizen scientists are seeing. The great thing about citizen science is that you can collect data on a scale that you can't do with just trained biologists. And of course we've hit on some of the downsides, which is that there's less training, there's less verifiability of the data, there's potentially some biases. People want to go survey wetlands where they're going to see birds, so if they don't see a species or the target species in a wetland through time, then sometimes they get bored and want a different wetland. And really what helps the most is if you have consistency in wetlands through time, so you can say for sure this is a wetland that's used by this species over 10 years or this isn't.
Dr. Taylor has a master's student who is working on putting together fish and wildlife surveys performed on Jaybear over the past few years, and the birds and bogs data to analyze for correlation. There are no other current uses of the data, but the analysis that the grad student is going to perform could bring some interesting patterns to light. The program hopes to use this information to make interpretive signs to put along pathways to educate the public about why intact forests and wetlands within the city are important.